Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Battle, and as you can see, I am struggling with technology, but it is well worth it. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope your health and your family are okay during this time. Thank you to Black to Life for allowing me to come on and volunteer. I'll be reading from the book of African American children's stories, and I will be reading about scientists and inventors. This is written by Yvonne Shinhoster Lamb. There are some illustrations in here by Frank Norfleet. Imagine a world without traffic lights, elevators, or even something as common as peanut butter. What would life be like with no lawnmowers, refrigerators, or ice cream? In these times, how would millions of people get through the average day without a cellular phone to help them keep in touch with others? Throughout history, African American men and women have used their creative talents to improve the lives of people all over the world. Their inventions continue to make life a more healthy and enjoyable experience, and also make work less dangerous and more fulfilling. Back in the 1800s, an African American named Henry Blair, found a better way to plant corn and cotton. He went on to invent planting machines that helped to change farming in this country. In 1834, Blair became the first African American inventor to be issued a patent. A patent is an official document that gives an inventor the exclusive right to produce and sell his inventions for a certain number of years. About 50 years later, Sarah Boone made housework a little easier when she created the ironing board. And in 1905, Sarah Breedlove Walker, known as Madam C.J. Walker, gave women a new way to groom their hair when she invented the straightening comb. Benjamin Banneker stands out among early inventors. Banneker was born a free man in Ellicott's Mill, Maryland in 1731. He attended only a few sessions of elementary school and mostly taught himself to read and write. His studying made a difference. Banneker became a respected mathematician, astronomer, surveyor, and writer. When he was in his early 20s, he became fascinated with a watch that belonged to a friend. Banneker took the watch apart and put it back together again several times. He borrowed books on geometry and studied them. Then he carved pieces of wood to resemble the watch's gears. Banneker built the first striking wooden clock in colonial America. The clock kept perfect time for many years. Here's an illustration of Benjamin Banneker. Years later, Banneker became part of the team of surveyors who planned how the streets of Washington, D.C. would be laid out. He also was well known by scientists throughout the world for his precise predictions of solar eclipses. Banneker also wrote boldly against slavery. Everyone who enjoys cookies, cakes, and ice cream can say thanks to Norbert Rillieux and Augustus Jackson. Their inventions continue to make life safer, a little sweeter every day. Norbert Rillieux was born in 1806. He attended school in Paris and became an engineer and inventor. Rillieux created a better way for sugar to be made into white crystals. His invention in 1846 made it easier to change sugar cane, the plant from which sugar comes, into crystals. This process made sugar easier to use. Augustus Jackson made and sold custard in New York. He created the first ice cream. As the story goes, Jackson put a pail of custard into a bucket of cracked ice to cool it off. The custard froze. Jackson tasted it and liked it, and so did his neighbors and his customers. He then began selling his ice cream in quart tins for $1 each. So many of the inventions by African Americans have proved useful in everyday life. The inventions help to make work easier. Shoes and more shoes is what Jan Erst Matzellinger's invention made possible. He built a machine in the late 1870s that would make up to 700 shoes in one day, compared to about 50 made by hand. His invention, called the lasting machine, changed the shoe business. In 1881, Lewis Howard Latimer invented and patented the first electric light bulb with a thin carbon wire. Latimer was an electrical engineer who worked for Thomas Edison, the famous inventor who introduced electrical lighting to the world. Latimer also wrote the first textbook on the lighting system used by Edison. Granville T. Woods and Garrett Morgan thought about safety as they invented dozens of devices. One of Woods' best-known inventions was a system for getting messages from one train engineer to another. His efforts helped to stop train accidents. Morgan designed a safety helmet that was used by firemen in the early 1900s, but he is most famous for his invention that is used everywhere, the traffic light. George Washington Carver developed a mountain of products from the tiny peanut. Carver was born a slave in Missouri in 1861. It wasn't until he was 10 years old that he first went to school. Later, he went to college and studied plant life. In 1896, Carver eagerly accepted an offer to the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama to lead its new Department of Agriculture. Carver made history while he was there. His experiments on peanuts, sweet potatoes, and soybeans led to products that improved the lives for millions of people. Carver also changed the bleak picture of agriculture in the South. He gave cotton farmers hope with new crops that could earn them money. Carver created more than 400 products from the peanut and sweet potato, and other items came from Carver's work with soybeans and pecans. Carver either invented or developed new forms of many products. Among these were peanut butter, bleach, shampoo, flour, coffee, house paint, printing ink, cheese, and soap. African American scientists have made wonderful contributions to the health and welfare of people throughout the world. Dr. Ernest Just conducted research in the 1930s that changed our understanding of how cells work. Dr. Lewis Tompkins Wright developed a special way to vaccinate people against smallpox, which did away with scarring on the skin. One scientist who stands out for his study of blood is Dr. Charles R. Drew. He was an outstanding athlete, surgeon, scientist, and teacher. He discovered that blood plasma could be stored longer than whole blood and then be ready for use in medical emergencies. Plasma is the liquid part of the blood. It is blood without the cells. Dr. Drew's work helped to save thousands of lives when blood plasma was used by the British during World War II. It was used to save wounded soldiers. He also helped to set up blood banks, which we use today to store blood for times of need. Dr. Drew's great contribution to the world will never be forgotten. Neither will the great work of the many other African American scientists and inventors. Well, that is one story from the African American Children's Stories book. It takes you through a history. There are some African stories in here. There are some other stories about writers, musicians. So if you're looking for something to pick up from the local library or from the bookstore, you can find this on many platforms and or at your local library. I thank you, and I thank Black to Life for the opportunity to read today. Again, my name is Chris Battle. I'm here in Mansfield, Texas, and I hope to do this again. Thank you.